So, Liz, I am so excited to ask you about the big thing in your life going on right now, or one of the big things, but this one I think is pretty awesome. The book that
Yes.
was just released, self published, right?
Mhm.
About your dad.
Yes, yes.
Please tell us everything.
Well, I'm very excited about it, and I'm honestly really proud of him, and I think that, he has been a real inspiration even in thinking about, this podcast with, creating new sparks in your life. He is somebody that has continually done that in his life. So some folks who know me, would know this, but for those that don't, I grew up as a military brat, and my dad was a fighter pilot, and he, led a really interesting life, in the military, and, but for much of it, he was gone during my childhood because he was off doing these, you know, incredible things. And so I guess I was in my early 20s and he was telling me a story and I was like, gosh, I'd really like to learn more about this.
Yeah.
Do you think that we could that you could put these down on paper somehow? And he said, I don't know if I could do that, but I'll let me think about it. And he ended up getting a this is how old I am and how far back we're going. He got a cassette tape recorder, and he started, recording. He would at night, he'd pour himself a scotch or whatever, or whiskey, and he would start the cassette tape, and he'd say, "Okay, Liz, I'm gonna tell you this story about XYZ." And he would do these tapes, and he would, was not living in the area I was at in Philadelphia. He would pop them in the mail to me, and I'd get the tape and I'd listen to the tape and I'd keep the tape, and this went on for, I don't know, 20 years, um, and, maybe longer, and I carried these tapes with me wherever I moved, and so, about 2 years ago, my dad was, talking with a friend of his, who's also a fighter pilot, and, that friend said, you really need to start um, think about writing a book because you've just had this amazing career. And he said, "Oh, you think so?" And he said, "Yeah." And so he said, "Well, I do have these tapes that I sent to Liz. Maybe we'll do something." So he reached out to me and he said, "We should do something." And I said, "Okay." So I went through the process. I got the tapes digitized. We wanted to do that anyway, just so that the nothing would ever happen to them
Yeah.
since the technology had changed so much. And then once I got them digitized, then I got them transcribed. I initially found a woman out in Las Vegas who did it, and then I also used, some AI technology, frankly, that was really, phenomenal for this purpose. And and then we had, the transcriptions of these tapes. And so we started to write a book, and my dad sat down and we put everything together, and we had, one of my friends, helped us out by being a beta reader and, reading the initial draft and giving us some notes back. And, so this has been a 2-year process where we have been editing, you know, uh, ex you know, not changing the story, but condensing. Like,
Mhm.
it started out initially, from when he was a kid,
Yeah.
to the end of his career, and what we ended up doing is just choosing, there were 13 years where he, was in Vietnam for 4 different combat tours,
Oh, wow.
and then he had, an assignment, in the US and an assignment in the Middle East, and so we sort of chose that period of time, for this book. And so, about 2 weeks ago, I figured out the whole self-publishing thing. Amazon, Kindle Direct Publishing makes it super easy. I found a technology, software that put it into book format.
Wow.
um, we sent out probably at that point, it was like the fifth draft. We sent it to five different people to be beta readers to give us back edits, notes,
Mhm.
corrections. And every morning I would get up at 4 a.m. and I would take this giant 450-page printout, and I would manually um, edit it and then do it on the computer until about 7 a.m. when I had to get ready for work. And it was just a nice quiet period where and we got it out in the world.
Oh my god. That's
And it's
awesome.
just a labor of love, and it's just it is such a phenomenal story. My father was an one of the early advisors before Vietnam became a war, where he advised the South Vietnamese military, and uh, and and his description of Saigon and what how the war was handled was so interesting.
Mm,
Saigon was like the Paris of Asia at that time, and the war was like being in the wild, wild west.
wow.
And then his last tour, was in 1973. At that point, he was a squadron commander of, a fighter base in Thailand, and, um, and he literally, flew one of the last official missions of the war. In fact, when they were flying back from their mission, they had, the, I don't know what radio station was on the in the cockpit, and they were, broadcasting that the truce had been signed
Wow.
and the war was over. Now, it wasn't ultimately officially over for a little bit, but, well, I guess it was officially over, but they were still doing some missions after the fact. But that was, like, the last official mission
Oh my god.
of the war.
So I've so many things to touch on there. This is really, first of all, very exciting, right? So
Mhm.
there's the things I want to sort of ask you about regarding like the book and the making of the book and like this dream that you had that you and your dad ended up really following through on, but then also like about the book and about this like the stories in it. It sounds like you picked 13 years and there's maybe the potential for some sequels, right?
I know, we
Right.
talked about that because there
Yeah.
certainly is some interesting, yeah, my dad's life is just really fascinating, in that, he was a fighter pilot, but then through this experience in Vietnam, he got connected to, the Central Intelligence Agency,
Hmm.
and so he ended up doing some work with them.
Wow.
And he did that after the war even, and then when he retired from the military, he moved to an area where he knew nobody, started a career in an industry that he had never been in before, started his own business at the age of 56,
Wow.
and really created something.
Wow.
And, so he is somebody that has sort of reinvented his life a couple of times. And even with this book, he just turned 90, and he'll kill me for even like saying that on air because he does not want people to know that's his age. But he is still driving forward. He is still approaching life with energy, setting goals, achieving those goals. He is such an inspiration.
That's so great. Feel like feel like we need to talk to him.
I would definitely love to have him. I
Yeah.
would love to have him
I think it'd be great.
on the show at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. I mean,
And,
starting a business at 56, ooh,
I know, you think
that's
about that,
really
like,
cool.
that this is
Yeah.
the age I am now or, about to be, and I think, "Gosh, would I have the energy to do that?" I hope so, but I'm not sure.
Well, you found the energy to do the book. So
That's true.
so I just learned kind of what a beta reader is, and it sounds like just the process I feel like so many people out there you talk to and, like, I have a book in me.
Yeah.
But they don't really follow through on the book, so the book
Mhm.
lives inside of them forever, and these could have been amazing books that,
Mhm.
could move and touch people. What how did you go through the whole process? Is that something you could share resources on for others? Like, to, because I think the idea of it is overwhelming.
Yeah,
And is it? Was it overwhelming? And it's, I'm sure it's harder than it seems, but this is like a real, like, dream people have, that you had, that your dad had, that you followed through on. And the book, from what I understand, is doing very well.
it is. The book is doing great, and which we're thrilled about. But I think that is largely because it's really an incredible story. I will say that uh, I don't know if we could have done this 20 years ago. That online information, social media connections makes things a little bit easier.
Mhm.
So I joined different Facebook groups on writing memoirs, publishing your first book, self publishing.
Yeah.
So a variety of those groups got a lot of insight, got a lot of leads on the right software to use. A friend of mine had a friend that just published on uh, uh, Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing. And so we arranged a conference call so we could say, okay, step by step, walk me through the process
Yeah.
of, uploading the book and how that whole process worked and the turnaround time with Amazon. Um, I will say this, if you write a book, it's got to be a labor of love because you're not gonna make any money at doing
Okay.
it.
I think people would
That was
wanna know that,
that was
right?
something that I did not expect, but by the time you pay for the printing costs and the royalty, to a publisher or Amazon or whoever it is that you're using, um, the author who has labored over this for forever makes like $3 a book. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Wow.
So you don't do it for the money.
Right.
Now, I know that there are some people out there that are doing having AI create coloring books and they're selling them and they're making money on that. And, I don't know. It's a lot of effort for, in my opinion, little return.
Mm.
But in my dad's case, it was a story that I didn't want to see forgotten or lost. And, um, and so we had to get it out there. And so and I will tell you that he did drive me. That is to say, when um, I work with my dad every day. We're very close. We talk all the time. And he is a guy that gets things done because he's like, well, so where are you on the book? And I'm like, got up at 4 AM, Dad. I got through 100 pages. We're good. But, yeah, it's gonna take some time. But he was really a taskmaster making sure that it got done, but good on him.
Yeah, I'm sure that's why he's also successful in business, right?
Exactly,
So we're
exactly.
now, is Riggs what he started at 56?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, so we're gonna be celebrating our 35th anniversary,
Oh my
and,
god.
yeah, and he started it with, himself, an assistant, and 2 clients.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
That is so cool, right?
yeah, yeah.
Now the book itself and the content of the book, kind of following those 13 years of his life, in it, does he get into, like, the whole cultural phenomenon of the Vietnam War?
He does, he talks a lot about, uh, you know, the leadership in the war. He talks about the question of was it a right war, a wrong war. And he also talks about he actually took this story out, but he did have an experience coming. You have to understand, like they are in these soldiers at that time. They're watching their best friends die on the battlefield. They're in extraordinarily scary situations, and they think that they're doing the right thing. I mean, the cause was just. And if you read his book, you'll understand why it was a just war, a just cause. But they would come home, and this happened to him. He came home, he was, in his, uniform, and he was walking through an airport in San Francisco, and, people would, like, spit on you, they would, throw, like, fake blood on you,
Mhm.
call you, a baby killer, and things like that, and that was your homecoming. There were no parades, there was no, "We appreciate your service," and, they were doing what their country asked them to do.
Mhm.
They didn't have they weren't the decision makers of this war. The president of the United States was.
Mhm.
And the president said, "You need to serve, and we need you to do this for us." And the people that were not making that same sacrifice at home had the audacity to judge what these men and women were doing.
Right.
And it's an appalling period of our history,
Yeah.
but we should never forget it.
Yeah. I was just, we have a local museum, they have a heart museum, and they
Mhm.
had a Bob Dylan exhibit, right?
Mhm.
And, in the exhibit, there were dog tags hanging to represent those who died, the soldiers
Mhm.
who died during the Vietnam War. And they also had a draft chart, right?
Mhm.
And I looked at it because you could look at your birthday and see if you would have been drafted because it goes in numbers, their draft rounds, I guess, if I'm
Okay.
getting any of this wrong, but that's like their draft rounds. And I looked at my birthday and I know I'm a woman, I wouldn't have been drafted. I get that. But I'm like, what about my sons?
Right.
What if I was a guy, you know?
Mhm.
And I look at my birthday and it was like round 3. I would have
Right.
been gone, right? No choice, right? You're going. And that was like stirring to me for some
Mhm.
reason, just like n- you're thrown into something, you're trained for very little time, and like you said, you go into these extraordinarily scary situations that I don't know how anybody copes with them. Like they're just it's beyond right.
It
Like what
is.
a human being should need to go through, and that's any war, and that's whether you're fighting the war or you're in the country where the war's at. It's just whew, all it does for me is like I keep thinking like what how is this how we solve things still, and at the same time, thank God there are people brave enough to do it.
Yeah.
Like there are people brave enough to um that we have a military who throughout, whatever war it may have been, that we have people brave enough to stand up and go to that front and protect those who are back home.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting because I think one of the things that we've lost in this country is that service above self,
Yeah.
right? And at some point, and I work in the financial industry, so we're part of the problem. But at some point in the '80s, it all became about that. There was that movie called Wall Street,
Mhm.
and it all became that the hero was the guy that drove the Lamborghini
Mm,
and made a gazillion dollars,
mhm,
right? However he did it. Um, and it used to be that what people took pride in was defending their country.
mhm.
Today, we have, I don't know, 330 million people, give or take, in this country, and our military is, I wanna say, 8 million people.
Oh,
We have so few people willing to serve and defend this country, and it's a problem.
mm.
I actually think that Israel, in the way that they do it, where they have mandatory
Men
service,
and women.
men and women, I think that that's a good model.
Mm,
And it's not to say that every man or woman has to serve in combat. I mean, my dad will actually tell you that he believes that um, for the best outcome in combat, you want trained warriors.
right.
Um, but everybody should have skin in the game.
Mm.
We should all be making some sacrifice, and in our country, we don't.
That's so interesting. It's an interesting point of view. One thing I always wonder, and I would love to ask your dad about it because he was in the military and he would know. Because again, I'm just so appreciative of people who are willing,
Yeah.
who stand up and make the choice, you
Mhm.
know, um, to 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 defend us. But what would you do in a scenario? Because it seems like your dad has a very clear position on the war, and
Mhm.
but in a hypothetical, like, let's take a hypothetical war where the president or those at the top are leading you into something that, as active military, you felt was not correct or was unjust. What do you do? What does the military still operate, you know, like, th I think military almost has to operate like we get our commands and then you do this thing. Like,
Right.
that's part of the
But there is, I mean, in our country, and kudos to, the writers of the Constitution who set up this framework.
Yeah,
Congress declares war. The president does not declare war.
good point.
Congress declares
Mhm.
war.
Mhm.
And so there is a check and balance in you know,
Yeah,
in that. And we live in a very free country where people um, have strong opinions and voice
yeah,
them in a lot of variety of ways.
yeah,
So I don't believe that if we ended up taking up arms, that it would be in a situation that was not for the best interests of this country.
understood.
People may disagree with what the best interest is,
Mhm.
but I do believe that the framers of the Constitution
Yeah,
really got it
that right.
right.
I go to the Army Navy game every year.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. I've never been. I've never been.
It is not only so much fun, but it is, I think, the most thrilling football game to go
Yeah,
to. Uh, just to see, for me, it's seeing, again, those who've chosen to go into the military. It's not, you're not having frat parties every weekend and
right.
you're working hard and you are being trained and
Mhm.
you are there
You're
to ultimately
dedicated.
dedicated to
Yeah.
defend our country.
Mhm.
And I feel such gratitude when I'm at that game, and I look at the cadets and these young soldiers in the military, the midshipmen, and I'm so proud of them, and I'm so, like, grateful to them, and it just the whole sense of camaraderie, even though it's, one against the other and whatever, you just feel good that you're in a country that has, um, these young men and women who are willing to do this.
I agree,
It's
but I think that
incredible.
that's what made when they talk about the greatest generation
Yeah,
in World War II. Everybody,
yeah.
whether you had a victory garden, whether you were a stay-at-home mom that went to work in a munitions factory, whether you were 17 and lied about your age so you could, like, join the military and get into the war, that is the way our country operated. We all played a part.
Yeah,
And today, I don't see that.
yeah.
I feel that we've become a very self-focused, country. I see it just driving down the road. I mean, I've never everybody now is a jerk driver, and it used to be that there would only be one of them on the road, and now everybody is, tailgating and passing you
Yeah.
and, whatever. And I think it's just endemic of the fact that, we've become very, well, I need to be somewhere in 5 minutes and you're only going 75 and I need to be going 90. I mean, that's literally how we've become.
Mm,
And so that's why I say we need to somehow get back to um, uh, an approach that says you serve. I don't, in some capacity, you make this world a better place.
yeah. I well, your your dad certainly did. And, from me to him, thank you. Right,
Uh,
right. And to you for the book, putting that out there and reminding people how important it is to have people in our country willing to do that. And, their stories are important to be heard. And we have to keep a memory of it.
we do.
And because your dad's just a citizen like everybody else who did some extraordinarily incredible, brave, courageous things on behalf of our country. And so thank you to him and thank you to everybody who's listening, who you're either part of the service, you have a loved one in the service,
Yeah,
thank you, because that's what keeps us strong,
it
you know?
is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
So, oh, Liz, that's a great story, and I really, I love that you told it. I love that you got a book out into the world, the whole process of it, the story itself, and I hope we revisited it more over future episodes, but certainly that we get your dad in here to talk to us too.
Well, we will definitely have my dad on the show.
Awesome.
Great.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks.